never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Alicia, for about 5 years now. We seemed like the picture-perfect couple, or at least that's what everyone thought. She's the kind of woman who's always been a little bitchy, but charming enough to get away with it. I guess I was blind to it most of the time, or maybe I just didn't want to see. Things started to feel off the past few months, but I chalked it up to stress, work, whatever. I was in a serious car accident about 2 months ago that put me in ICU for nearly 2 weeks. That was the worst time of my life, no doubt. I was barely conscious most of the time, hooked up to machines, fighting to stay alive. While I was in the hospital, Alicia visited a couple of times, but her visits felt different. She seemed distracted, hurried. She'd check her phone constantly, and the way she'd look at me sometimes, like she was annoyed or impatient, didn't sit right. I wanted to ask her what was wrong, but I was too weak. The whole experience made me realize how fragile everything was, especially us. I knew she was probably having a tough time, but I also sensed she was hiding something. Still, I convinced myself that maybe I was overthinking it. I mean, I had just almost died after all. Once I got out of the hospital, I noticed little things. She was more distant. She'd go out more often, say she was meeting friends, but rarely introduced me to anyone new or brought anyone home. Her phone became more secretive. She'd leave it lying around, but then suddenly she'd hide it or turn away when I got close. I'd catch her in little lies, like when I asked her where she was during that one night. She said she was at her sister. But I saw her messages with her boss, David, that night. They'd been texting late and often, more than just work stuff. It was clear she was hiding something, and I felt a cold pit in my stomach. One day I decided to check her phone. It wasn't planned, just a gut feeling. I found messages under a hidden app, full of flirtatious crap, talking about meetings, plans, and most painfully about how they had sex last weekend. Sex with her boss. I couldn't believe my eyes. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How long had this been going on? How could she lie so easily? I kept rereading those messages, trying to find some way she'd explain it away, but all I saw was betrayal. She was cheating on me with someone I thought was just her work friend. I felt numb. That's the only way to describe it. I wasn't even angry at first, I was just stunned. How could she do this while I was lying in a hospital bed fighting for my life? I kept thinking about all the times she lied about where she was, the little snide remarks, her impatience. It all made sense now. She was sneaking around, probably sneaking out to meet David, and I was so blind that I didn't see it. I don't know how I didn't notice earlier, but I guess I was too weak, too distracted by my own recovery. Finding her messages was like a slap in the face. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was just a lie. After I found those messages, I sat there staring at the screen for what felt like hours. My hands were trembling, my mind racing. I couldn't believe she'd been so blatant about it, and yet somehow I hadn't seen it coming. I always thought Alicia was manipulative, yeah, but I never thought she'd cheat on me during my most vulnerable moment. That made it even worse. While I was in ICU, fighting for my life, she was probably with her boss, doing God knows what, sex probably, judging by those texts. I remember feeling this crushing mix of anger, hurt, and betrayal. I wanted to call her right then and there, but I also knew I needed to think. I couldn't just confront her without knowing what I was dealing with. I needed a plan. So I put her phone down slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Whatever was happening, it was real, and I had to face it. The worst part was the way she'd lied about everything. Every excuse, every little twist to make herself look innocent. She'd told me she was doing her best, that she was stressed, that she loved me. It all sounded so hollow now. How could she lie so effortlessly? She's always been a good liar, I'll give her that, but I could see the cracks in her stories now. The way she'd snap at me when I tried to ask questions, the way she'd accuse me of being paranoid. She was hiding something big, and I was finally seeing through it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, her words, her face, those damn messages. I felt sick. The kind of sick that makes your stomach twist and your head spin. I started thinking about all the signs I missed, all the late nights I brushed off, all the little things that didn't add up. How she always had a reason to leave the house suddenly, and how she'd get defensive whenever I tried to talk about our future. Now I knew why. Because she wasn't thinking about us. She was thinking about him. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I couldn't just do it blindly. I needed to be calm, composed. I wanted to catch her in a lie directly, see her face when I told her I knew. But that was dangerous. I didn't want her to just deny or get defensive. I had to be careful. Still, I was angry, and I knew if I didn't do something soon, this whole thing would escalate into something even messier. The next morning, I decided to do a little digging. I knew I'd find more if I looked through her phone, her emails, whatever I could. I needed proof, not just her words or my suspicions. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about everything turning into a lie, our entire marriage. I wanted to see how far she'd gone, how deep it was. And let me tell you, I found more than I bargained for. The messages between her and David were just the tip of the iceberg. There were plans, secret meetings, even plans to meet again that weekend. I couldn't believe I'd been so stupid, so blind. All those nights I spent giving her the benefit of the doubt, and she was out cheating on me. I started feeling this rage build inside me. All the times she told me I was too paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I needed to trust her, she was the one lying. And now I was left with this feeling of complete betrayal. I never thought I'd be that guy, the guy who'd find out his wife was screwing his boss, but here I was. And I knew I couldn't just let this slide. Not anymore. Not after reading those texts. I needed a plan to handle her, and I knew whatever I decided, it was going to change everything. By the time I finished going through her phone, I was a mess. Every message, every word felt like a punch to the gut. I saw the way she talked about David, how she called him daddy in some of the texts, how they planned secret meetups, and how she described their sex like it was some kind of adventure she didn't want me to know about. I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. She always had a way of making herself seem so perfect, so charming. That bitchy smirk, her sharp tongue, her constant need to control every situation. I used to think it was just her personality, but now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, lying cheat. And the worst part, she never even tried to hide it properly. She'd been so careless with her lies, so confident she could get away with everything. That made me angrier. How fucking stupid did she think I was? I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it impulsively. I waited until she got home from work that evening. I was sitting on the couch, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. When she walked in, she looked at me with that same bitchy glare, like she was already annoyed that I was even there. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine anymore. I had the proof, and I was ready to call her out. "Where were you last weekend?" I asked, my voice cold but steady. She looked surprised, then quickly recovered her composure. "What are you talking about? I told you I was with my sister," she said, trying to brush past me. I pulled out her phone and placed it on the table right in front of her. "Really? Because I found these messages. You and David planning your next little rendezvous. You lied to me about where you were. How long has this been going on?" Her eyes widened for a split second, then she scoffed. "Oh, come on, Mike. You're overreacting. It's just work stuff. You're being paranoid. You're still weak from the accident. Give me a break." She crossed her arms, trying to act like she wasn't caught, but I saw the sweat on her brow, the way her hands trembled slightly. She was lying, and she knew it. "Stop bullshitting me," I said. "I know everything. You've been screwing your boss behind my back. While I was in ICU fighting for my life, you were out doing God knows what. How long has this been going on? Do you even care about me at all?" Her face twisted into something bitter. "You don't get to accuse me of anything, Mike. I have needs and I have a life. Maybe you're the one who's been ignoring me, spending all your time in that hospital. You want to blame me for everything. Fine. But I'm not some monster. I didn't mean for it to happen, it just did." I felt my stomach turn. The way she said it so casually, like it was just a mistake, made me angrier. "It's not just a mistake, Alicia. It's a slap in my face. While I was fighting for my life, you were probably fucking David in some hotel or his office. How could you do this to me, to us?" She rolled her eyes and scoffed again. "Oh, please, you're being dramatic. It was just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean anything. I love you, I do, but I also have needs. Nobody's perfect." That's when I realized she was trying to justify it to make me feel guilty for catching her, but I wasn't falling for it. I looked at her, feeling this strange mixture of heartbreak and rage. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she betray me like this? I'd never felt so powerless, so angry in my life. This wasn't just about some affair anymore. It was about the lie of everything we had built. I thought I knew her, but I was just a fool. I wanted to scream at her, wanted to shake her and make her see how much she hurt me. But I also knew I had to stay calm. I had to plan my next move because this was only the beginning and I wasn't sure how I was going to come back from it. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't look at her the same way and she clearly knew it. The way she kept trying to dismiss everything, to pretend it was no big deal, only made me angrier. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, completely shattered but still standing. Inside, I was boiling with rage, heartbreak, and a sense of profound betrayal. I needed to think to figure out what I was going to do next, but honestly I was lost in a storm of feelings. That night I pretended to sleep, but I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to come up with a plan. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her texting David, heard her lying about where she was, felt the sting of her betrayal. It was like every moment I'd trusted her had been a lie, and now I was left holding the pieces of a broken relationship. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, how I missed all the signs, how I never suspected anything. It's crazy how someone you love can turn into a stranger so fast. The next morning, I decided I needed proof beyond just her words and her phone. I wanted her to admit everything herself, face her own lies. So I set up a little trap. I told her I was going to be out all day, running errands. I left my phone in my pocket, secretly recording everything she did and said. I needed to hear her own words, her own voice, when she thought I was gone. I also started digging into her emails and social media accounts, anything that could give me more clarity. I had to know how deep this thing went, how many lies she'd told, how many nights she'd spent with David. When I came back that evening, I played her recorded voice and showed her what I'd found. Her face went pale, and her bitchy attitude vanished in an instant. She tried to deny everything, but I kept pressing her. Eventually, she snapped, calling me paranoid, accusing me of stalking her, saying I was crazy for suspecting her. That's when I saw her true colors. She was so good at lying, at twisting the truth, that she almost convinced herself she was innocent. But I wasn't buying it anymore. The evidence was clear, and I was done pretending I didn't see it. I told her I wanted her to leave, that I couldn't be near her anymore. She threw a tantrum, yelled, called me crazy again. She tried to cry, to act like the victim, but I knew better. I knew she was just a selfish bitch who thought she could get away with everything. I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak, knowing I'd finally caught her in her lies, but also knowing that my life was about to change forever. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I couldn't stay with someone who had lied and cheated on me during my most vulnerable moment. That realization hit hard, and I started planning my next steps, whatever they might be. After she left the house that evening, I sat alone in the living room, feeling like my world was crumbling. The house was eerily quiet, every sound amplified by the deafening silence in my head. I kept replaying everything, the way she'd lied, the way she'd sneered at me when I confronted her, her coldness when I showed her I knew the truth. It was like watching a nightmare unfold in real time, and I was powerless to stop it. My chest was tight, my hands clenched into fists. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. I started to think about what I really wanted, whether I should fight for her, try to save what was left of our marriage, or just cut ties and move on. Honestly, part of me still loved her, but another part just wanted to erase her from my life entirely. That's how deep the betrayal cut. I had always believed in honesty, in loyalty, and now I saw that all of it was just a lie. How could I trust her again? How could I even look at her without feeling disgusted? The pain was overwhelming, and I felt like I was drowning in it. In the days that followed, I started planning. I contacted a lawyer to understand my rights, knowing that whatever I decided, I had to be prepared for the fallout. I also started organizing my thoughts, what I'd say if I confronted her. Again, how I'd handle her attempts at guilt-tripping or gaslighting me. I knew she'd try to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty, but I wasn't going to fall for that again. I'd been such a fool, but now I was determined to be strong. I wasn't going to let her get away with destroying what was left of us, not without a fight. Meanwhile, Alicia kept trying to reach out, calling me, texting, trying to play the victim. She'd send me those typical bullshit apologies, saying she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd change. But I didn't believe a word of it. She'd lied so much, I didn't see how she could possibly be truthful now. Every message felt like a slap, like she was trying to manipulate me into forgiving her. I was getting sick of her games, sick of her pretending she was the innocent victim. The truth was out now, and I wasn't going to let her spin her way out of it. I had some hard decisions to make, and honestly, I was torn. Part of me wanted to burn everything down, to cut her out of my life completely. The other part, the weaker part, still wished I could turn back time, fix what was broken, pretend I never saw those messages. But I knew better. I knew I had to face reality, that I couldn't continue living in this lie anymore. I had to pick myself up, figure out whether I was going to fight for us or walk away for good. Whatever I chose, I knew it was going to redefine my life forever. And as much as I hated her for what she'd done, I also hated myself for ever trusting her in the first place. In the end, I made my choice. I couldn't stay with someone who'd betrayed me so completely, especially not during one of the worst times of my life. I knew I deserved better. It wasn't easy. Those first few days were a blur of tears, anger, and a deep sense of loss. But I also felt this strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I finally saw her for what she really was. A selfish, manipulative woman who cared only about herself and her needs, and not about the vows she made or the life we built together. I filed for divorce. I told her I wanted nothing more to do with her, that I was done lying to myself about us. She argued, begged, threw her usual tantrums, but I held firm. I knew I couldn't build anything with someone who thought betrayal and lies were acceptable. I also knew I had to focus on healing, mentally, emotionally, physically. Trust was shattered, and that kind of damage doesn't just heal overnight. But I was determined to move forward, to rebuild my life from the ground up. Looking back, I realize now how much I learned from this. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. It's painful, but sometimes you need to go through hell to see the truth clearly. Alicia was never the woman I thought she was. She was just good at hiding her true self. Her lies, her manipulations, they all caught up with her, and I'm finally free of that toxicity. To anyone out there who's going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small. And if you find yourself in a situation where someone is lying to you, cheating on you, or manipulating you, don't be afraid to walk away. It hurts like hell, but it's better to be alone than to be with someone who doesn't truly care. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I'll never let someone betray me like that again. I'll rebuild my life piece by piece and learn to trust again, just maybe not so easily next time. That's the lesson I take from all of this. No matter how much it hurts, honesty and respect are worth more than any lie, and no relationship can survive betrayal. Not really.